So now we talk about toxins, right? So we can just break it down really simply to food toxins. Gluten, casein, these are going to be powerful ones. Gluten and casein are powerful ones. Now, gluten has been a big deal over the last, I'd say 50 years. Things have increased due to a lot of the pesticides. So Roundup or glyphosate's a big one. They used to just spot Roundup and spot it and use it, like you could just on certain things to kill. And then what they would do is they would take a bacteria out of certain resistant plants. They found that these plants, you couldn't quite kill them with Roundup. So instead of being very particular and going around with sprayers and targeting the weeds and stuff like they would with typical pesticides, they found this bacteria in certain plants that were resistant to Roundup. Took the DNA and what that was making that plant more resistant to it. They pulled that DNA out, spliced it into the wheat, and now you have Roundup ready wheat. Now, what does that do? Well, now instead of coming in and spot treating pesticides as needed, and usually that was done, let's just say earlier in the growth process, so a lot of it would be off the wheat and the grains when it came to harvest. Now they would actually take planes and just spray it through the whole field. So instead of coming in and spotting it, now you need less people, less workers, and you would just use a big plane. And instead of doing it earlier on in the season, they would do it throughout the season. They found that if you use wheat even at the end of the season, the growing season, it would desiccate the wheat and actually dry it out. And that also increased the gluten levels, supposedly. And it also increased the zonulant, or I should say the Roundup glyphosate residue on the gluten, on the grains. So now you have gluten that has more protein in it due to the desiccation, and you have Roundup used later in the season, which created a greater residue. And so now when you take when you take all this glyphosate in, this Roundup in, that's going to now increase that zonulin because glyphosate is a powerful stimulator to increase zonulin, which makes your gut more leaky, more permeable. So very important. So we have the farming practices being changed. Instead of spot treating things, at first we were, using natural things. We would kind of rotate the crops, and then we started pulling the weeds, and then we would use, maybe natural pesticides like diatomaceous earth, or you do white vinegar and you do high doses of it. Now you have more chemical-based pesticides. Like Roundup it's a chelator. So it would typically grab, it's a glycine-based molecule, right? Similar to collagen, actually, which is interesting because glycine is an amino acid, but it would have that's why it's glyphosate, and it would essentially pull away the minerals. It would strip the minerals. So the problem with glyphosate as well, there's some data showing that it also decreases the mineral in the soil, thus making the plants less nutritionally dense, because if plants don't have good mineral in the soil, it's a chance that they're going to make less vitamin C. They're going to have less nutrients because minerals and healthy topsoil predicate good, healthy nutrition in the actual plant.